And hey there, hi there, ho there, hello there, and welcome back to another exciting edition of the Cardinal Couple Radio Hour podcast, where we discuss the joy and excitement of UofL women's athletics. Certainly a very exciting night on Floyd Street last night, at least in the area where the Louisville Field Hockey area stadium is at Traeger. Maybe if you went a little further north, it wasn't as exciting, but still a win. But certainly a lot of good things that happened this week, and we're going to review them with you here. As we've
It was
got
very exciting farther north than Ulmer.
yeah, well, Ulmer, I didn't catch any of it, but I
Yeah.
understand you snuck out there incognito. Huh?
Yeah. Stuck my head in there. We can talk about that a little bit if we may not have time though.
Yeah, we'll try to get time
Yeah.
in on that a little bit as well as it appears the Cards have found a shortstop from what I'm hearing, and Taylor Roby still remembers how to hit the ball over the fence.
Hmm.
It's very good things to have when you're a softball team. But we'll get into that and much more today on today's broadcast. It's going to be an action-packed one, but we have four on board today. Daryl is out. She's going attending a birthday party today, so she'll be out doing that. And let's hope that the little kids can keep the big kid away from the cake and the ice cream because I know she'll definitely, you know, shove them out of the way to get that chocolate stuff. Yes, indeed. But we got Case in the house with us. We've got Jared in the house with us, Jeff in the house with us, and me, Paulie, as well. So, as we like to do to start out the show, we try to catch up with the crew and kind of see how their week has been. And uh, Jeff has threatened to fall asleep during the broadcast today, so that could be fun. I don't think we've ever had that on air where somebody's actually passed out on us in mid broadcast.
I've got
Explain yourself,
no,
sir.
I've gotten close before. No, I just it was a very busy week, so I'm a bit worn out. Um, you know, good stuff, getting a lot done, but just busy uh, with work and running here and there and doing other things, and then trying to get up for a volleyball match last night and struggled with that a little bit. Didn't get as hype as I normally do for them, but it seemed that that was contagious. So a little bit more on that, but yeah, it just was. It's been a long week. Not in the sense of it's been a bad week, but just busy and a lot going on. So
We will endeavor to keep you as
yeah,
entertained as best we
yeah.
can today, along with our listening audience on this. And if you do decide to fall asleep, just go ahead and type into the chat messages z z z z z z z
Yeah,
z.
yeah, whatever my forehead lands on. Yeah,
Yeah, so we know
yeah,
not to call on you
yeah.
for an answer or anything. Okay. We got Case in the house with us. Case women's soccer tonight, but there's some certainly very big action last night on Floyd Street. You had the write up today in Cardinal Couple. Your thoughts and observations. What's going on with you, man?
There was a lot that happened. I stayed up late watching a movie last night, but it didn't really matter what time I woke up because it was still just going to be a chore to get through today's article. Did that, and unfortunately, not going to be able to make the game tonight. We finally have all of the remainder of the exterior contracting work that we're having done to the house is all scheduled. Um, but that means that painters are coming next week, which means that this weekend is devoted to finalizing the rest of the exterior stuff we've got to do. So today, after this, will be a fun time of removing decades old attic vents to replace those and whatever falls out of the eaves onto me. While doing that will be a blast, I'm sure. Filling caulk holes and all kinds of stuff. But yeah, painting the house, getting the house painted. The deck will be done next week. That's nice, and some new windows and doors situation. So looking forward to finally not having contractors at my house or begging to know when they can come to my house for the next few weeks. For the rest of the year, hopefully.
And I've got to ask a couple questions here. Are you planning on getting yourself like a sledgehammer and going to Dwight Schrute on the kitchen or something like that, or no?
No, not anytime soon.
And second of all, we need a brick count. Where are we at on the bricks now?
Still got about 200 of them. If you want any bricks, or no, two. I still got about 400 of them. I wish I only
Oh,
had about 200 of them.
we got 400 bricks here, so maybe some lucky listener will. Maybe we need to do just an auction on the website. One day you just put it out there.
Get a
I was
Cardinal
hoping
couple
I could just,
brick.
yeah, I was hoping I could just throw them in the dumpster with our deck demolition, but our guy ended up not bringing a dumpster here. He hauled it off instead, so that was unfortunate because it meant no dumpster for me to throw bricks in.
Just put like 2 in a trash can a week.
Yeah.
And just think, in 14 years, they'll be all
Slowly.
gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. You could build a nice barbecue pit with 400 bricks, what I would think, huh?
We're thinking about building a fire pit.
A fire pit would be nice too. Barbecue pit would be even more fun, but I don't know if 400 bricks. If you're going to do one right, 400 bricks would be a good number to start with.
Yeah, they really don't go as far as you think they do. I mean,
That's
I made
true.
just a small pad, temporary for our big green egg, which turned out to be a waste of time because the way that everything worked out, I didn't need it. It was to move the grill while the painting happened. But since the deck is going to be done before the painting, then I can just put it on the deck. But it took 40 bricks to build just like a little 3x3 pad. So, and it was only 1 layer thick. So they don't go as far as you think they do once you start doing stuff with them.
I bet I can get 120 feet. You know, good wind up.
Yeah,
You'd get a pretty
fair
good sized pit. Per some handyman websites, if you're just doing a 3-foot diameter pit, it says you'll need approximately 80 bricks.
I disagree. I just told you for a 3x3 square, it took me 40. They want me to dig a hole. Yeah,
I think we should have feats of strength where, where we'll each get 3 bricks, and the Cardinal couple participants will meet somewhere and see who can heave a brick the furthest. And depending on how you want to throw it, I might adapt the old Imani Henderson discus or shot put throw, where I'd spin myself around till I'm nauseous and then let it go.
I think the trick, since this isn't actually going to happen, I will give away what my strategy would be for that. Would be an underhanded spin.
Like a softball toss? Like a softball?
Maybe not quite that aggressive, but like a cornhole toss, but give it some spin. Get it moving through the air, because you're just gonna hurt yourself if you try to throw a brick overhand.
Oh, I don't know about the cornhole. That might be rough, kind of. Yeah.
Well, don't throw it at your boards. That'd be bad for them.
I think we'll leave that right there then. And if you hear these big clangs going on out in the Linden area, it's Case playing brick cornhole. Oh my. New boards. Anyone. New boards. Jared, what's happening with you, my man? You were with me last night for a while, and then you left for a while, and then all of a sudden, look, he's back just in time. Jared toured the entire campus and also went to certain parts of southwestern Jefferson County. He was up and down Floyd Street all night long. Buddy, what's going on?
Yeah, after work, started the day out at softball and saw Jeff and his mom there, and abandoned them at Ulmer to hold down the fort to join you over there at field hockey. Abandoned you at field hockey to rejoin Jeff and his mom over at volleyball, just to leave them once again and rejoin you at field hockey. Actually, I was going to head down to try and catch some of men's soccer when I left volleyball at halftime, and then with the way field hockey was going,
field hockey was still going on.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? We're going to hit up field hockey. They're in overtime, and men's soccer is already down 2-0. So let's make the wiser decision and go check out some overtime, which then came down to a shootout. So I'm glad I was able to head back over there to Trigger Stadium, because that was certainly an exciting night.
And it was, Jeff, and it's a shame you all had to miss that, because it was really quite the epic kind of match, where this thing, it looks like we're getting ready to pack up and go home with 10 seconds to go. Then miraculously, the Cards get a corner. Okay, fantastic. Penalty corner now. Justine Savory has told us over the course of the season, we need to do better on corners. We're not doing very good on corners, okay? But
you don't say.
Yeah.
Julie Cowwiser didn't get the message. She was kind of like, let's see if maybe I can tie this thing up. And so, 7.7, so it was pretty decent. And were you all following that over at the volleyball at all via phone or tweets? Or
I did not pull up the video, and the live stats wasn't showing that I could find on it anyway any of the actual shootout updates as they were going on. It just said, T1, T2 for overtime periods, and then just nothing. So there didn't seem to be any updates in live stats for it.
I was trying to tweet out what I could on it. And stats was kind of messed up because they were having trouble earlier up there in the press box with stat broadcast.
Yeah.
So in any event,
Let me tell you, those troubles did not end with during the game because the play-by-play during the shootout is the most chaotic thing. If you haven't looked at it, go to the overtime 2 page of the play-by-play and look at how the shootout ends with what the reviews were going on. It can only have so much per line, and it's just oh man, it's
Well,
something.
I think that's part of the story here is that the review on the final shot of the shootout, was it is it the SpongeBob meme that 2 years later,
One eternity later.
yeah, finally get a ruling on the review apparently. So.
it was a situation where okay, we've reviewed it. Oh, you want us to do what? Oh, you want us to review the review? Sure, no problem.
And they actually
Let's
did that on the last 2
Yeah. So it was.
shots.
Is that a case where one coach calls for a review and then the other coach calls for a different review?
No, coaches can ask for unlimited reviews. We found out.
What?
Yeah.
So when you get to shootout, all rules in terms of reviews, challenges go out the window, and you just have unlimited.
I challenge that. Well, we're upholding it, but I don't agree. Look again.
But no,
I challenge
you
it again.
You don't get it. I strenuously object.
Yeah.
I just object. I strenuously object.
Look once more.
That's crazy.
Could we take
Like-
another look at this?
Like I did see in volleyball last weekend, I was watching a volleyball match and I saw a double challenge where one coach challenged it, the call got overturned, and then the other coach challenged on another point. Like, so, I mean, that can happen in volleyball. I know. I didn't know what the rules were in field hockey. So that's crazy.
And all
That's
of
what
us-
happened on the first one, but then the second one, I don't really know what they did. They like challenged. It was called good. They challenged it. They upheld that it was good, but then looked at it again.
We
and
were talking earlier cases. I think the second time it was whether the shot clock had run out or not.
Yeah, the first was like whether she had
Yeah,
kicked it
did she
right,
back-
and then
did it hit her foot? Did it hit the back side of her stick? How did that go? But then the second time, it's like and like Jared mentioned earlier, Pam Buston was rolling the dice here.
Sure.
She knew she was lost unless she somehow miraculously got a review to go her way.
Well, if you've got unlimited challenges, why not?
Absolutely,
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's just like going
Challenge
to that
everything.
go to that amusement park where you get unlimited soft drinks, right? Hey, it's unlimited
Yeah.
challenges right now. I mean, I was going to challenge, the fact that I had to sit in the press box and couldn't be down on the field, but
Which, like, on rare occasion, you'll see a similar situation with volleyball. If you go to 5 sets and a coach has burned through all their timeouts and you're down to final couple points, you call a challenge. You're giving your team an extra 30-second timeout at best, right there.
that's a very good point.
It doesn't happen often, but it does occasionally happen here and there.
Less
It's
so
kind of last
now
resort.
with the new challenge rules that they've instituted for good. But
For
yeah.
sure. So it's fun times. We'll get into a little bit more of that later on in the show here today. As for me, it's been an eventful week, except for the middle part of the week where basically it wasn't doing a whole lot of stuff. Was kind of recovering from a knee dinger I had last weekend when I unfortunately decided, hey, that step doesn't really matter. I'll just go ahead and miss it. Ow,
Oh.
that hurt. And did a very unceremonious tumble in my backyard. Fortunately, no one was around to see it. But then the shame and embarrassment was then followed by a sharp sensation in my knee. So anyway,
I was gonna say you might start soon saying, "Unfortunately, no one was around to see it and help me."
Yeah, no doubt.
I mean, yeah, it would have been nice if Sonya had been there. At least she could have helped me get back up to my feet because I was having a hard time getting any pressure on the knee, and I didn't have anything to hold on to kind of boost myself back up. So here I am basically crawling back to the back porch where I can push up myself back up into a position where I can stand up. But yeah, that was a whole lot of fun and not anything I really want to go through again anytime soon. So
Well, we can always get you that help I've fallen and can't get up button. if you
Yeah,
need it.
life alert.
that's true.
ACC Network shows me plenty of commercials for it.
Yeah.
Hey, that's true. I could probably do that, except I'd have it hooked up to whoever the SID is at the event I'm covering. It's like, yeah. Oh, I want to jump over and see women's soccer, and then Matt Paris gets this. Paulie has fallen and can't get up. Oh, Paulie has fallen and can't get up. Maybe so, but I doubt that they would respond to it. But Lori would probably come help me.
That's what I say. Lori would.
Any of the others, I don't know. Matt would probably send an intern, and then
Yeah.
Of course, we know how that goes. The intern would show up at a different stadium, and all messed up, and then they would end up actually, taking Josh over to the hospital. And anyway, it could just get drastically bad. But all right, let's move on into a little scheduling and Twitter information with a lot of fun stuff
We're a
coming
quarter
up.
of the way through the show already.
Yeah,
All right.
we've only wasted 15 minutes here, but we had fun doing it. And
Oh,
that's
yeah.
the cool thing, because it falls within our mission statement about the joy and excitement of Cardinal athletics, or the people who cover Cardinal athletics.
Yeah.
So there it is. It's a broad-based statement that I'll stand by until somebody proves me wrong. Okay. All right, Queso, a little scheduling and Twitter info for you and sir.
Yeah, you jokingly mentioned women's soccer, but they're first on the schedule. Men's tennis is playing in the Ohio Valley Regional Championships, but that's not really something we talk about too much, and it's the fall anyway. But women's soccer is taking on the 6th-ranked Irish from Notre Dame tonight at Dr. Mark and Cindy Lynn Stadium. Speaking of which, I finally made it to Lynn Family Stadium last week. It was my first time.
Okay. Really?
Yeah, but that one's
a few times. Interesting.
that one's at 7 p.m. Should be on ACC. I didn't pull up the schedule. Trying to figure out if it's on ACC Network Extra or Oh wait, no, that's Wake Forest. Why am I on their
I
schedule?
would think with football,
Yeah.
probably on Network Extra.
Yeah, it is on ACC Network Extra. Tomorrow, volleyball takes on Wake Forest. That one's also on Extra at 1 p.m. And field hockey takes on Ball State, also on ACC Network Extra, starting at 2 p.m. Monday, women's golf starts the Tar Heel Classic, Roots Chris Tar Heel Classic in Chapel Hill. Men's tennis continues that Ohio Valley Regional event. That's the last day of that on Monday. Tuesday, women's golf wraps up that 2-day event in Chapel Hill. Men's soccer takes on East Tennessee State. Not a team you hear about very often. That one's at 7 p.m. The Ohio Valley Regional ITA Championships start in Knoxville, Tennessee for the women's tennis team on Wednesday. That event goes through next Sunday. Swimming hosts Tennessee at the Ralph Wright Natatorium on Thursday, starting at 2 p.m. Women's soccer goes on the road to take on the Wolfpack of NC State at 7 p.m. on Thursday as well. And Friday, men's golf plays in the Williams Cup at Wilmington, North Carolina. Field hockey is at Syracuse at 6 p.m. on Friday. Volleyball is at Virginia at 7 p.m. on Friday. Neither of those with watch links currently listed, but they may find themselves on ACC Network Extra. Men's soccer hosts Clemson at 7 p.m. on Friday, and then Louisville Live. For some reason, it only says MBB versus Louisville Live. I don't know why they don't just say Louisville Live on this calendar, but whatever. That is at 8 p.m. at Louisville Slugger Field, and I believe that you can still get tickets for that right up until the event starts. So that should be exciting. Angel McCautry and Peyton Siva already announced as guests. It'll be an interesting.
Carlo has been chimed in. He'll be there too.
Oh yeah. It'll be interesting to see how they do the event this year at a baseball stadium, but I think it is pretty cool that they just move it around. I think that they would have liked to have kept having it at Churchill Downs. I think they had a really good event there, but with no Downs After Dark events and the paddock being remodeled, then they didn't really have the place to do it anymore. So
yeah, that would have been kind of the logistics of that case would have been pretty altered if they had decided to go back to Churchill again. I know, of course, obviously, we're not saying that they won't go back, 2 years from now, because Churchill is a great venue to do it in. There's no doubt about that. We'll see how it turns out downtown. It could be
They
fun.
are anticipating a record crowd. Not that it's an old tradition or anything, but they are expecting a much larger crowd than in the past.
Well, I think the other thing is this will probably be one of the first times they track attendance for it. I mean, it's a ticketed event in a closed venue
Right.
this year, whereas previously it's been at 4th Street Live. If you just happen to be at 4th Street Live, you could go. Last year I was at Churchill Downs for a wedding on the same day, so it just happened to pop over and look for a little bit. I mean, this will be the first time they're really like, oh yeah, we had people come to Louisville Live and not just be at Louisville Live.
And specifically for it, not
Right.
among other things, creating the crowd. Yeah.
But that's it for the schedule. As for Twitter, I tweet as at best case scenario, BST case scenario. Polly is at Cardinal Couple. Jeff is at Card Couple Radio and at Jim McAdams. Jared is at Mr. Anderson Jared, and Daryl is at Daryl Faust 4. As always, on the right side of the Cardinal Couple website, along with all of the schedules and results, you can check out the Twitter widget for all of the UofL women's athletic accounts.
Certainly a wealth of information over there on that right-hand side of the site. Should you need to maybe look at a rivaling site to us, or maybe you want to go back and do a search on, well, when was the last time these guys wrote about Angel McCountry or Monty Henderson or something like that? You can access all that stuff over on the right-hand side, and certainly a lot of fun. Follow the tags as well on the actual articles. That will help you do that too. But just a plethora and a cornucopia of knowledge over at the Cardinal Couple website. Let's go ahead and move into some knowledge, though, about what happened last night in Louisville athletics with the women's side as the Cards brought in Duke for field hockey, an event that Jared and I were at. Or I was there the whole time. Jared kind of popped in and out. But certainly a situation where Louisville had to come from behind to tie this thing up with a mere 7.7 seconds to go, force the overtime, force a second overtime, and win this in shootout. Case, we'll start with you. You had the actual write up on it. This was one where I was ready to kind of pack up and go home with 10 seconds to go, and boom! All of a sudden, Julie Koweiser said, "Not so fast, my friends."
Yeah, and like I wrote in the article, there wasn't really a lot of reason to expect differently. Louisville had about 6 minutes of player advantage in the third period at the end of the quarter there that they weren't able to do anything with. And then in the fourth, Duke just kind of parked the bus, threw everybody in the back and said, you're going to have to do something special to get an equalizing goal. So went empty net, as we've seen done before, and that can sometimes turn a 1-0 game into a 2-0 game instead of 1-1. In this instance, like you said, it looked like it was going to just finish the way that it had started. That period at 1-0. Louisville picked up that penalty corner, and put it together just like we've seen some clutch penalty corners from them in the past. You'd like to see them be able to do it on all the penalty corners and not just the ones they really need. But Amy Plum puts it in, Kelsey McCrudden stops it, and Julie Koweiser fires it home. So it was her 6th goal of the season, and I think most of those have come on penalty corners, if not all of them. And then they went into that overtime where Louisville's kind of advantaged, being a really well-conditioned team. They like to run with their offense. They're not like slow, methodical offense. They really like to get out and break, and that showed in the first overtime. They got a bunch of shots and weren't able to put any of them in the back of the cage. But the second overtime, Duke decided they might try to end the game themselves, including Charlie Van Oorschot, who started and played most of the game and didn't make it onto the stat sheet until 18 minutes after the game was supposed to have ended. But Sasha Elliott was there to make that last stop and send it into that shootout we've talked about.
Certainly a situation where when you get into a shootout like that, and just to kind of refresh everybody, if you're not remembering how that works out, each team picks out 5 players that are going to shoot out against the opposing goalkeeper. The Cards had actually, the funny thing about it was Julie Koweiser had not attempted a shot. It was actually Amelia Kazmarczyk who won the thing with her shootout, making it 3-1 with only 1 shot left for Duke. But it was Katie Snyder. She scored on it. Kelsey McCrudden, she scored on it. And then it was actually Amelia Kazmarczyk who actually got the winning goal. Sasha Elliott in goal. 3 big stops, Jared, in the shootout. Sasha took up big, and we interviewed her after the game, Jared and I did, but I'm noticing they didn't put her interview up yet on the Go Cards page. They've got Amelia and Justine Sauer up there, but man, Sasha just stood up and performed big time in that shootout, didn't she?
Yeah, and I think that's probably one of the big reasons why Justine Sauer and company chose to recruit Sasha and get here, knowing we would only have 1 year with her. And it's for situations like that where, a veteran player is going to be comfortable in goal and step up and make the play when you need it. And she certainly looked more than comfortable out there and hyped up, energetic. Uh, she understood a lot of the one-on-one movements of the players and could anticipate that very well, uh, whether it was enough to deflect it or just kill the 8-second shot clock. So I was certainly grateful to have her back there. It put a lot less stress and pressure on the offensive side in this shootout. So hopefully we don't go into more shootouts in the future, but it's comforting knowing that we'll have Sasha the rest of the year for that.
They can definitely raise your blood pressure there just a little bit. This was a scoreless first half, and then Jared decided to leave, and Duke was inspired by that, and they came out and scored with only 90 seconds into the third quarter to take the lead, 1-0, and then that 1-0 lead, of course, held until as we mentioned, the end of the contest when we got the penalty corner, and of course, Julie Hauser was able to get that goal in, Jeff. But Duke is a team that plays us close. They always come in and battle with us, and then there's always the student versus teacher rivalry of
Right.
Justine Sauer versus, of course, the head coach for Duke.
Yeah, that's always the storyline for Duke versus Louisville in field hockey. Buston was the coach here, and Sauer learned a lot under working with her, and Sauer took over here, and then it's there's similarity in styles, there's similarity in plays, there's similarity in knowledge and expertise, so it's always an added factor for this game.
This year there was similarity in players.
Yeah. Well, there's that too. Yeah, we'll see that storyline echoed in women's basketball later too. So, but yeah, I mean, they're always a good team. You have to credit them that. You have to credit Buston and recruiting at Duke. They're always a good team. They're always going to be a threat. I mean, that's true for everybody in the ACC, honestly. But Duke is definitely among that list, and you got to watch out for it. That storyline is an interesting one, and I know you, Paulie, and Coach Buston have had a bit of an ongoing connection over the years where you continue to stay in touch with her a little bit. So it's great to see. It's a lot of fun. Really, I think it adds to the meat of the game a little bit.
And I was kind of a bit disappointed that I didn't get a chance to catch up with Pam after the contest, but as Lori Cordy, the Cardinals SID for women's for field hockey, told me, if you're going to talk to her, don't let Coach Sauer see you talking to her. And I'm like, well, okay, I'll put up my cloaking device,
Yeah.
and come in on her all like Klingon, and Coach, I'm out here. You cannot see me, but I am talking to you. Now, we've had some great conversations over the years and talked about some things when she was here, and then even stayed in touch a little bit when she left to join the ACC. She wanted to be in the ACC, and now that Louisville was in the ACC, she's probably got to be scratching her head and going, well, how did that work out for me? Let's see.
Well, you look at Duke field hockey, you say not badly, right? You got to say.
Oh, no, and they've
Right.
got that beautiful blue field down there now,
Yeah.
too. So, which was another complaint of mine. I was complaining about that last night. It's just like, why do they have to have these blue fields? And I was actually told by one of the players later on that you can spot the ball better at night when the lights are on a blue field than you can on a green field.
Yeah, I believe that.
That the optics are better.
The color contrast, yeah.
Yeah.
We should do an Eastern Washington
Yeah, blood
football
red.
and go red with our field. I was gonna say black, but that would get really hot. So we'd go red.
Yeah.
You boy, black would be rough, wouldn't it? Wow.
It would look cool, but it would not be fun to play on.
Because Jared, you hang out in that black area a little bit, taking photos and stuff, right?
Yeah, we've got enough black on the field hockey turf right now. And that's what you would consider as the out of bounds area. And whether you're standing or kneeling or sitting, you can feel the extra heat during some of the day games as the sun bounces off that black a lot more, and it rises and hits you in the face, as opposed to the faded red /pink that we've had in the past wasn't nearly as hot.
And then after the contest, of course, a very nice ceremony they had there that Jared and I were able to kind of stick around for and watch as they honored three All Americans on the Cardinal roster. Uh, Unfortunately, one of them was not able to be there, but here's the great situation on it. Her younger sister plays for Duke, so her dad was actually at the game and came up and accepted the little plaque that they gave him for All American. But it's I'm sure the you know unassuming field hockey fan said, "Hey, wait a second! Didn't they just like call out a girl's name and what's that guy doing standing there?" That's the reason behind that is her dad was actually at the game. But Jared, that was a pretty cool event too, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was nice. It felt a lot more, I guess, up close and personal since they did it at the All American board. So the fans were right on top. The fans were there with the players, got a good close view of everything. Uh, so I like that they did it right there. So it felt more involved and inclusive with the fans. And I think that new All American board plaque thing that they've got back there is very sleek and looks good. It's legible, and it you can list each year and team that the All Americans were named on.
You just gotta wonder. I think there's only like 5 or 6 spots left on it though, so maybe in a couple years they'll be looking to possibly put up either a second one or a much larger one with more openings on it. We'll see how that works out. It's obviously you love the fact that the All Americans are on our program. It's always so much fun to have and almost so much fun to see. And when you take a look back at the three they honored last night, Allie Bidding was honored, guys. Even though it was her dad who accepted the award, Allie. I'm not sure where Allie is, being graduated and all. But her dad was there watching her younger sister play. Julie Cowwiser was honored with an All American plaque. Uh, Very cool that they did that for her, especially after the night she had. And Amy Plum, who's been so fantastic for the Cards. All three got their plaques and got their names up on the big plaque, which is next to the locker rooms on the other side of the field from where the press boxes are and where the fans sit. So if you do get out to Traeger and you're walking down there on the ground floor, getting ready to go up to the bleachers or whatever, stop and take a look at that board because there are some absolutely incredible and wonderful names on that board, Jared, I think you could say.
Yeah,
Uh,
and like you said, I think that that board's gonna fill up quick, and by the time Sauer retires, I think the whole stadium's gonna be full of All Americans.
to wrap it up on the 16th, the Cards, that'll be Sunday, we'll bring in Ball State, and this will be senior day for Louisville, as it's their, I think, final home contest of the year, if I'm not mistaken on that. Uh, they'll be honoring some really, really fine seniors, including Sasha Elliott, Emily Kazmarczyk, Julie Cowwiser, Kelsey McCrudden, India Reed, Maddie Tabor, and also Minna Tremonti will all be honored. I think they're going to do the primarily before the game on these for them as the awards go or the honoration goes, and then throughout the contest they'll be doing them again. So it'll be interesting to see how they handle it. But yeah, certainly when you take a look at it, this is seven very, 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 very super players, guys, that have played well for Louisville and now are playing in their senior game.
They do have one more home match after that one, but it is a Friday afternoon game
Oh, okay.
against Boston College. So they decided to, I guess, do it on a day when they'll be able to get more attendance and more families out to support.
That would make sense. So yeah, I can certainly see that. So with the win, the Cards now 11-3 and 1-3 in the ACC, and certainly a chance for them to, I think, obviously kind of bolster a shot of getting into the NCAA tournament as well as the ACC tournament coming up later on in the season. I won't call it a must win, but I was call it a pretty daggone important. You better get this win.
Yeah,
That is,
it's getting important to get some wins under your belt for that.
it is
Yeah.
indeed. So, and speaking of wins, let's go to a win that's happened a little further north on Floyd Street than the field hockey facility. That was over at the L&N Federal Credit Union building. In the SAC building, where the Cards took on Virginia Tech in a 4-set win in volleyball. Jeff was over there. Jared was over there for a little while, but Jeff, you saw that it was a win. It was nice. We won it in 4 sets, but the crowd really was kind of like meh on this.
Yeah, sometimes you see an underdog team that loses a match, but they call it a moral victory. Some people call it a moral victory. I think this was a moral loss. This was UofL did not play well. And even in post-game interviews, Eric Crawford got a chance to speak with Coach Busman Kelly and with Iko Jones, among others, and they both were just very open and honest about he didn't play well. This is not what they expect. They were not proud of this performance. So it's a win. It's 3-1 UofL goes in the W column, but definitely not happy with what happened out on that court last night. So came out flat, came out unenthusiastic. I think the crowd kind of did too, and I include myself in that. I was speaking earlier about having had a long week, and that was wearing on me, and so I wasn't my usual up self either for it. So I'll own my part of that. But didn't play well. Weren't crisp. Lots of shanked passes. Just missed hits. Just weren't playing cleanly and sharply like we know they're capable of. Had the opponent been Duke or Georgia Tech, we'd have lost, I think, the way we played. So glad it was Virginia Tech, honestly. Not that great of a team. They're okay. They're not bad, but we could come out and play badly and still get the win, stay in the W column. I'm also glad that the team and coaching staff and everyone recognizes and understands that was not the way you want to play the game. You got to come out and play better than that. So,
do we have any type of timeline or update on Anna DeBeer and when she might be back?
Yeah, so I actually spoke with her mother last night, some, and
you had a beer with Miss DeBeer?
Yeah,
Oh, no.
I did not have a beer, but I did speak to her. We did find out a little bit more actually about what her injury actually was. She actually, when she originally went down at Stanford, they were just thinking it was like a deep bruise or something. But what it turns out is she actually, at least partially, maybe completely, I don't know that they're completely certain on that, tore her posterior cruciate ligament. Ligament.
PCL.
No, PCL. Yeah. So that's like less severe than an ACL or an MCL, but still obviously an issue. It takes a little while to recover. They do think she'll be back in another, week to 3 weeks at this point. So
my favorite thing about injury reports is when they call stuff like that a sprain. They sprained their PCL. It's like, you didn't sprain it, you partially tore it. Like, what?
Yeah.
Sprain is the dumbest injury name.
That's kind of what a sprain is, though. I've talked to some doctors.
Yeah,
but
it means like partial tear.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Like a sprain is a dumb thing. It's a much less serious sounding thing than it really ever is.
And I've got an orthopedic surgeon who will yell at you if you say that, because when I partially tore my PCL years ago and came in and said, I think I sprained my knee, doc, and they did the x-rays, because you did not sprain your knee.
Yeah.
You've partially torn your PCL. And then I was kind of like, oh, gee, what's that mean? Says, you're off of it for 6 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's basically what the treatment is. You stay off of it. You keep it, you don't move it around too much, so you can let it heal. So she'll have a little bit of recovery time to get back to full strength on it, I'm sure. But, she said that it was, Anna felt much better this week in being able to move and was able to do some form of practicing this week. So, there's improvement. It's continuing to get there, and probably another week to 3 weeks, I think, is kind of the impression I got and numbers I heard. So,
and I noticed she's not on a crutch either, and I was on a crutch for like 4 weeks.
Yeah, she's young and tough. So.
Yeah. Well, which is great, because I'm not. So fantastic. But with this win, the Cards go to 16-1 on the season.
I will add in that she does have a knee brace on that's keeping it somewhat restrained, and that apparently will be the case when she's not out playing or whatever for probably about 6 months, just to help support it. But
they used to do the ones where they had the metal on either side of the knee to help keep the knee stabilized, so it wouldn't suddenly make an abrupt.
And this one lets her move it a little bit, but it's definitely restraining how much and how much effort it takes. So.
In fact, I've still got mine, and I still wear it from time to time when I fall down steps and stuff like that and mess my knee up. But 16-1 on the season now, 7-0 in ACC play for Louisville. Cards did pretty good on this one here, hitting 351 for the contest, which is not bad if you put that in terms of baseball. That's a pretty good batting average, Jared. But it was once again Claire Chaussee steps up because it's up to me to do this, and she had, depending on which part of the column you read here, either 18 or 19 kills according to UofL. So I'm going to go with the 18 count because that's what it had in the actual.
That's what the box score says.
Yeah, but when they wrote it up a little earlier, it was like with near the end of the column on Go Card, it says with her 19 kills, Claire Chaussee is now 1 kill away from joining the 100 kill club, which makes me think that with 18 she would be 2 kills away.
She had 19 points, so I can see maybe where they got confused. But the whichever intern wrote the field hockey write-up also said that Duke went to 0-5 in the ACC, which is also incorrect since the record said 1-4 earlier in the article.
Yeah, that's one of Daryl's favorite interns down there. I won't go any further on that, okay? But certainly, I would think that if you are an actual SID and you have an intern write up an article, might be a good idea to proofread that thing before you put it out there. Just saying. But okay, hey, the Cards get a 3-1 win. Jared, you were there for a while before you started doing your campus tour. Your thoughts and impressions on this one?
Yeah, I'm in agreement with Jeff. I just felt like the team came out sluggish, and I feel like there was more of a mental block than anything. I'm not fully sure I understand what may have impacted that, other than the fact they were down at the KFCM Center a couple of days this week shooting some hype videos for the Notre Dame match that's coming up here in a few weeks. But other than that, I'm not fully sure I understood what may have kind of triggered them to not play like themselves. I think we were fortunate that it was a lesser opponent in Virginia Tech, where I think we just were more talented and more skilled than they were. So that certainly helped. I think they cleaned their act up a little bit there in the back half of the second set. And then I didn't get to watch after halftime, but it looked like the third set was just pretty rough. And then they were able to bounce back again on the fourth set to get the win. But in the end, thankfully, a win is a win. Still just sitting at that one loss on the year to Ohio State. And I think the goal right now is to try and stay atop the ACC and stay in the top 4 overall to be host through the first few rounds of the NCAA tournament.
As we have mentioned on here many a time, there is no ACC tournament at the end of the year. So obviously winning the regular season is very important for you in terms of what that goes as far as your NCAA bid goes. The Cards, it looked for all purposes here, guys, ready to do this thing in 3 sets, 25-21 in the first set, a complete and utter blowout in the second set at 25-13. You had to figure they'd come out after halftime and make this a 3-set walk away. But Virginia Tech said, no, not so fast. We want to stay here a little bit longer. They jumped out to a 12-9 lead. They pushed that up to 18-12, up 20-13, and even though the Cards were battling back, and the final score was 25-20 in that third set, Virginia Tech won it. Jeff, like I said, you were there the whole time, but what was going on in that third set?
Yeah, it's. I thought in my head, almost laughed that I wonder if they flipped the court around, the actual like Terraflex and everything. Because earlier in the season, I was laughing about how much this Louisville team was struggling in like second and fourth sets when they were on that end of the court. And I'm wondering if the Terraflex got flipped around the other way, and so they struggled in the first and third. Because that's what it really felt like. It just came out in the second set, just demolished them on that other side of the court, and then, but in the first and the third sets, it was a struggle, and obviously Virginia Tech won that third one. Yeah, they just weren't, like I said, they weren't playing sharp. They were shanking balls. They were just not. They weren't communicating. They were running over each other. They get up and they embrace and support each other in that, but still it's interfering with the way the play is. So it just was not, this was not a sharp team last night, and they Virginia Tech took advantage of it in that third. I credit to Virginia Tech; they had some great digs. Their libero did some great things after coming out in warmups and swinging in the hitting lines too. Then she goes out and she's a great libero. They had some, we won the blocking battle 11-6, but Virginia Tech put up some pretty good blocks in there that stopped some of our hitting, and that felt like, I don't have the numbers in front of me. It felt like that was particularly effective in the third set. So, I just like Jared said, brain fart, sort of flat, and Virginia Tech saw an opening and they took it.
You all had mentioned this earlier, and I'll dig into this just a little bit further. In a lot of athletic events, we see attacks change from half to half, where you may be shooting in basketball at the north basket, in the second half you switch to shooting at the south basket. Certainly, you see a change in field hockey where they attack in different directions, everything. But you all mentioned a couple times that it makes a big difference in volleyball, depending on what side you're attacking on. And I'd like a little further explanation, or at least philosophy and thought on that. Why does it make such a bigger difference in volleyball than it does in other sports?
So I don't know that it makes a bigger difference, but it certainly is not the insignificant difference that a lot of people seem to think it is. There are most arenas will not be completely symmetric. So
Yeah, it's
you'll
the
have
sightlines thing. I think is
yeah,
primarily.
you'll have sight lines. Like if you're facing, in the car when the cards start out in the first set, they're facing basically a blank wall with a big scoreboard on it. But when they're on the other side, they're facing a wall with glass out into the lobby and other things going on up there, up higher up. So the sight lines are changing, the views are changing. You can have also, and I'll let civil engineer weigh in on this a little bit more. You're not a civil engineer. Your wife is a civil engineer.
That's correct.
Yeah,
I did work on that floor a lot though. Not that one, but that in there.
Yeah. Okay. Well, but you got better credentials than I do. You can have different airflow from AC too, right? And that can obviously, when you got a lot of arcing balls up in the air like you do in volleyball, that can affect that as well. So,
and it's not just that the ball is going up in the air. The air itself can be moving differently, but the way that the walls and stuff are shaped impacts all that too. As for like switching the Terraflex around, I don't know how much of a difference that would make, unless they've really been denting one end of it so much that they turned it around and now they're falling in the holes that they created in the first half of the season.
It was a joke in my head, but yeah.
But yeah, I think that the sight lines, the way that the arena is, L&N Federal Credit Union Arena specifically is pretty asymmetrical. So a lot of stuff can be different. But I think, like Jeff said, Louisville was just not very good yesterday. I think that it doesn't look like Virginia Tech had a lot of blocks in the third, but Louisville did have 4 of their 7 service errors in the third, which certainly did not help things on that one. But yeah, I mean, from coming out of halftime, the way that they responded in the second set to the close first, you would have thought, okay, they're going to come out and they're just going to dominate now. And they did not do that. They got kind of whipped. So that was not encouraging. That was probably the most disappointing part, was not that they lost the set, but that they should have come out of the half and followed the momentum that they had, and instead they fell flat on their face. But it was good, I think, to see the fourth set. They never yielded the lead. Like I wrote in the article, they kind of ratcheted their lead up every time. They kept a big lead anytime they got it. They kept it about what they had until late in the match, when it didn't really matter if VT crept back a little bit. But yeah, I think one of the things I mentioned was the consistency of errors that Louisville had. Usually, they average 3 errors per set or so, but it's like one set with 7, and then another set with 1, and another set with 2. Whereas last night it was 5, 3, 4, 5. I mean, they were very, consistently meh from a hitting perspective. I mean, they still ended up, like Paul said, 351. You had 4 players in double digits. Your top 3 hitters all hit over 3:30. But it was just like you said, Jeff, not very crisp.
There was a little bit of a change in the lineup too. We'll call that out. The starting lineup changed up slightly. We had Garrett Cressy in the middle instead of Peregrine Kong. And we talked about that position a lot over the season because it's still, frankly, kind of an open position battle. I think even midway through the season, like we are. The difference, I think, the main difference you look at is PK is a very offensively oriented middle, and Kara is a very defensively oriented middle. She's going to block more, while PK is going to swing more on things. So, depending upon what you're trying to accomplish, you may swap one of those out for the other. The other change was instead of having in Anna DeBeer's place, instead of having Nina and Bonu and Aiden Bartlett coming in to sub for her in the back row, you had Nina and Bonu with Alexa Hendricks subbing for her in the back row. And then you had Aiden subbing in for Claire, I think, in the back row. And, you still end up with the same basic set of players on the court, but in a slightly different arrangement. I don't know how much that's going to impact this, but it's something that I noted that was different. And so I kind of look at that and scratch my head. Obviously,
Claire still ended up with a double-double.
Right. Yeah. She ended up, I think, ended up spending a lot more time on the court as a result of that. I don't know. It's hard to say. And like we say, we don't see the practices. We don't see how they're doing during the week in practice. And that has a bearing on who gets to play, much like, Jeff Wall says that all the time as well. So
Absolutely, he does, and that's certainly a very important part of it. How do you practice? How do you, it can really reflect on how you do play. But the Cards take this win in 4 sets. They come back against Wake Forest Sunday, 1 p.m. at the LN Federal Credit Union Arena. So if you can, you might be able to get in there and maybe see this one. I don't know. It's up to you. I've noticed sometimes there are empty seats out there, and I imagine there's a pretty good line to get those though. But if you want to get out on Sunday, take your chances and head on down. If not, you can certainly come to field hockey. We still got a little bit to talk about women's soccer, who did not play Friday night, but they do have a big match coming up as they bring Indiana into town.
Notre Dame?
I'm sorry about
From
that. Notre
Indiana.
Dame. Yeah, I was looking at softball there for just a second. No, I don't want to do that. No, they're actually bringing in Notre Dame into town. That's right. And certainly, when you take a look at Notre Dame, hey, all they did was beat FSU last week. Gee, that's not much, is it? Yes,
That's
it's
not,
much. It's big.
yeah, that surprised me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a team that's coming in here, and I think it definitely give the Cards a little bit of a headache, perhaps, as they come in here to play. As case, what say you about this coming in here to our nice Lynn Stadium?
It's gonna be tough. The Cards do get a Nuke Denton back, which is good, but Notre Dame's really good. They're the 6th ranked team in the country. They're sitting surprisingly only 4th in the ACC, but that's just because they didn't play last night. If things go the way that most people would expect them to tonight, then Notre Dame would move into a tie for second with North Carolina and Duke in the ACC standings. But Louisville could, make something happen. We've seen some magic at Lynn Stadium in the past, and they might be able to turn around, do it again. They kind of have to. They've got 4 games left. If this one against Notre Dame, at NC State, at Duke, and then home against North Carolina. And if you'll remember, those last 2 teams I just mentioned still are also tied for second in the ACC. The ACC tournament this year is still only 6 teams, which they changed during COVID and haven't changed back for some reason. But that means that Louisville is going to struggle to make that. They're currently sitting 10th in the league. They got 6 points. The cutoff is Virginia with 11 points, and everybody that they play is ahead of them, except for NC State, who's tied with them. So that's going to be a tough road to hoe to try and make it into that top 6. you've pretty much got to win against Notre Dame. You've got to win against one of North Carolina or Duke, and you got to win against NC State, or you're just not going to have enough points because those other teams are going to be climbing at the same time. So if you don't make the ACC tournament, you're not making the NCAA tournament. So these last 4 games of the season are kind of show us what you got.
A tough one tonight for the Cards, I think you could say, is Notre Dame 11-2 overall, 4-2 in conference, a 4-0 shutout of then number 3 Florida State. Very surprising outcome there, and they
Florida
really
State's first
love
loss of the season.
Yeah, they love the Irish right now, as all things are going on with them. They have won their last 3 games by the combined score of 10-0 with that 3-game winning streak. They have Mackenzie Wood. She was ACC Player of the Week and goalkeeper. Just incredible stuff. Olivia Wingate, she was given the ACC Player of the Week on offense, a forward who can score quite well. Second time she's got it this year. I mean, Jared, boy, I tell you what, if you're doing a plus minus column, boy, you look at Notre Dame and it's full of pluses, isn't it?
Yeah, I think just when you look at Notre Dame as a whole, they're a phenomenal program this year. Sitting 11-2, both losses have come in conference play to some of the higher end of teams in the ACC. And I think when you look at it from a statistic standpoint, Notre Dame should be heavily favored. But as either Jeff or Case mentioned, things can happen at Lynn Stadium, so you never know. I mean, the Cards may be able to pull this one out, which at this point, as Case broke down with the 6-team ACC tournament, every match now is a must-win. I think if the Cards lose to Notre Dame tonight, you pretty much given yourself no chance to make the conference tournament, which would result in no NCAA tournament. I think it's just you got to come out firing early, put the pressure on Notre Dame, put their backs against the wall. We've got some really strong offensive players, and use that pressure and keep Notre Dame on their toes or on their heels, so they can't get their own offense going.
Yeah, if the Cards, at 2-4 in conference, like we mentioned, yeah, they got to win this thing. There's not much gray area there. If they don't win this thing, they drop to 2-5 in conference, and you could pretty much, use whatever terminology you want. The door closes on Louisville women's soccer. The fat lady just sang and has left the building. Whatever analogy you want to make to it. I think it's one where the Cards, against all odds, need to try and get a win tonight. And let's hope that they can do it. They certainly are going to be boosted, as we mentioned. And guys, let's bet this around. Getting Anouk back is huge for Louisville. Also, getting Carson Cherry back into the starting lineup. Although we don't know how full she'll be able to go. She's the second leading scorer on the team for the season, so it can't hurt to have her back in there. But we'll just take it around. Hey, how does Louisville win this thing tonight, Case? What do they do to win this?
They don't park the bus. Like Jared said, this is a team that has a fantastic goalkeeper, and like you mentioned, they are, 10 to nothing goal difference in their last 3 games. So like Jared said, you've got to attack. You've got to let the offensive players do what they're going to do, because this is not a team that you're going to counterattack and make something happen with. Notre Dame. I mean, Louisville has to just play their offense, depend on those defensive players that you mentioned they're getting back, Denton and Cherry, to do what they've been doing, which is play pretty solid defense for Louisville and not give up a whole lot of goals. If you sit back, Notre Dame's going to keep the pressure up offensively. They scored 4 goals against Florida State. You're not probably going to be able to weather that storm for 90 minutes. And if you do, where do you make your winning goal? Because we're not seeing golden goal overtime anymore, and a tie is not going to get it done for this team. So you got to attack. You've got to try and win with a good offense. The best defense is a good offense in some cases, and this is one of those cases. So if you tie, it's the same as losing. So you might as well try and win. And if you lose in the process, at least you gave it your best effort.
Indeed, they do. So, And we're getting up close to the noon hour here, but I did want to kind of get in just a little bit of softball if we could here to kind of close out the show there in their fall season right now. And obviously, the games don't count toward anything except help building personnel and player lineups and giving Holly April a kind of clear sense of what she might have available to her come spring. But they did take on IU yesterday. Jeff snuck out there before volleyball to watch a little bit of that. Jared, you were over there taking photos on this thing. Let's kind of recap this for me, guys. What did you see? What did you like out of softball?
Yeah, my mother and I were running really early for volleyball. We were almost a half an hour before doors opened, even. So we stuck our head in for a little bit at softball to see what was going on there. It was a um, solid play when we got in there. I think it was 2-1. Indiana was leading, but then they were able to kind of do some last minute heroics in the first game, including a walk off home run. I think it was that really did some great things. Roby got her back in action. We saw some of the transfers that I'm not familiar with and can't come up with names off the top of my head.
Daisy
That looked
Hest
great.
had a big game, from what I understand.
Yeah. I think she was the one. She's a shortstop, right?
Yeah.
And watched her smack a ball into the fence. So, it was a good solid hit on there as well. They're young. They need some development, but they look good. They've got some good transfers coming in to help out. I think Jared updated us last week on some injuries, so I just kind of double confirmed that information, and all the same thing. Houston Lotus still recovering from ACL. Hannah File is back. I'm trying to remember who else, but yeah. So it's progress, it's practice, it's exhibition. That's what you're going out for. They look pretty good. They won both games. It's good. Second game by a lot.
Jared, thoughts on what you saw before you took off?
Yeah, in the end, it's just fall ball. So I don't want to, worry about it too much on whether how good or bad we look. The coach was throwing a lot of new faces in the circle because you can't ride Roby all season in the spring, especially with it being Roby's last year. You've also got to prepare for the future. So she's throwing a lot of newer faces in there. At one point, uh, the numbers aren't matching up with what we actually have on the true roster, but Alyssa Zabala, I believe is how it's pronounced, saw a lot of time past couple weekends. Sambu saw just a few innings the previous weekend. There's a couple other pitchers that aren't listed on the roster right now in there. Cassie Grizzard saw some time. So I think it's just trying to get enough people comfortable in the circle that we have a solid rotation. I can't speak enough of Daisy Hess there at shortstop. She's transferred in. She's clearly going to command that shortstop position and lead the infield. Strong defender, real strong defender, quick reaction time. Great bat. Already seen her hit a couple out in this fall ball season. Glad we got her on board. That does push Allie Alexander over to third from what we've seen. Another strong defensive player. I think she needs to just understand that you can use that third base line in your favor when you're at third base. You don't have to field everything cleanly. If you think it's going to go foul, you work that because you may be able to prevent a base hit if you can just let the ball roll a little bit. So that's I think that's just an instinct thing. Still figuring out what we're going to do with second base as Easton Lotus is recovering. Alana Ornelas has seen some time there. First base has kind of been a rotation with Maddie Grant, Hannah File. I think Hannah's outfielder days may be over following that injury from last year, but she's been clutch at first base so far. And then kind of seeing a rotation out there with Corbiotas in the outfield. So a lot of new faces on this team, young, ambitious, talented. So I think they've got potential to go pretty far in the spring.
Certainly something to look forward to for the spring. The Cards will close out their fall season in Lexington with another matchup against the Wildcats. This one will be, from what I'm reading here, 2 Saturdays from now up there in Lexington at 6 p.m. Yeah, the 29th. So another batter of the border. This one in an exhibition kind of thing, but still always like to try and beat UK if we can. Uh, All right. With that being done, hey, well, let's go ahead and roll into some final thoughts time here. And Jared, just some final thoughts out of you.
Final thoughts. It was just great being on campus yesterday. Beautiful weather. Couldn't ask for better weather. And then just so many exciting games. You had the walk off at softball, and you had the shootout at field hockey, and then you had volleyball going into a 4 set match over there. And everybody, all the cards came out on top, which just makes it that much better. So I was living my best life yesterday.
Certainly a situation where, as you mentioned, Oprah was handing out, here's a win for you, and here's a win for you, and here's a win for you. Good stuff there. Case, what do you got for final thoughts?
Yeah, awards and nominations anyway keep coming in for Gabrielle Leon, named to the top 30 of the NCAA Woman of the Year award, which makes her a top 10 finalist from D1. So that'd be a pretty big award for her. It is given. It is given to a nominee that has demonstrated excellence in academics, athletics, community service, and leadership. Gabrielle Leon has done a lot of that. She's an NCAA champion. So that would just be another great honor for her. So wanted to shout that out. That finalist, she is a finalist. The award will be announced in January.
Indeed, and certainly what a great job she did for Louisville. Jumping in that ball. Indeed, with that stick. Yes, indeed. Jeff, final thoughts?
Yeah, I'm getting ready to head up to Northern Kentucky to go to Case's birthday party. No, it's some friends of mine. Their son is named Case.
Fake
Case.
out LaFleur.
Yeah. So I'm getting ready to head up there. So that's going to be cool. It's always fun to visit them. But also, more on topic, shout out to we saw Arthur Albiero and much of the swim and dive team at volleyball last night supporting their compatriots, and also got word of quite a big recruit being with them, like described as maybe the best swimming recruit in the country. So best of luck with him. So I mean, always great to have swim and dive team out supporting volleyball. They're a lot of fun, always, and great cheerleaders and supportive. But hope that went well for Arthur and his crew as well.
Absolutely so. If we can get number one in the nation, that isn't doing too bad, y'all.
Yep.
Let's hope that it can happen. Final thoughts on this side? Just one we hadn't mentioned, but another spring sport that'll be rolling around before too long, women's lacrosse. They'll be actually hosting their final fall tournament of the fall season over at the LLS, the Louisville Lacrosse Stadium today. It's a one-day tournament. They bring in Kennesaw State, they bring in Eastern Michigan, and they bring in Cincinnati. And you're like, oh my gosh, Paul, don't tell me they have to play all three of those. Well, yeah, kind of, but it's a shortened kind of thing. They play Kennesaw State for 4 12-minute quarters of running time. They do Cincinnati at 3:45, and from what I'm seeing, I don't think Eastern Michigan will play us, but they'll be playing in other events there. Just kind of a fun fall situation where they can get out there, get some game situations in and stuff like that. Everything's free over at lacrosse. Head on out. I doubt I get out there for it, but certainly let's go out there and then give Scott Teeter and his gang a little bit of support out there as they get ready to close out a fall season and it gets them ready for a big spring, let's hope, for the Louisville lacrosse program. That will do it for us. Appreciate everybody listening today, and we'll catch you here next week unless you know something we don't. We'll see you Saturday for the Cardinal Couple Radio Hour podcast. Everybody have a great weekend.